So it's lovely this morning to have three people who've formerly been teachers and one person who has been a huge advocate for girls' education in addition. I know you're all advocates for girls' education, but somebody in South Sudan. So let's hear from our speakers. Estelle, you were Secretary of State for Education, and before that you were schools minister. Before that you were a school teacher. What got you involved in education, and why is education important?
Gosh, it seems such a long time ago now, but I did start off, I went to teacher training college when I finished school. And for me, and be careful the way I say this, that politics and education have always been connected in the best sense of the word. I've always been passionate about education, and I love politics because politics is about trying to change things for the better, wherever you live, changing the world, changing your community, changing your family's life chances. And when you look how that's possible, education becomes the answer. So sometimes people shy away from ever saying there's a connection between politics and education, yet there's an absolutely huge connection. But I spent my 18 years teaching in an inner city school in the centre of Coventry. It was a great school, and because I was there so long, we sort of, most of our children were from families that had just arrived in the United Kingdom. And as the waves of immigration changed over the years, when I taught, we had a lot of the refugees from Idi Amin's Uganda, East African, Asian families. And then that changed to Pakistani and Bangladesh. I remember us having some Vietnamese boat children, and it moves on. And you realise that for those families who've taken on that huge risk of moving their family to another community, they look to schools and education as making it worthwhile, as giving their children and the next generation life chances. So I'm not saying that's the only point of education. There's lots of others, but I think that's what I've always liked about education, that the power of it to change lives for individuals, strengthen communities, and bring about world change. That's magic. It operates on every level, individual level, community level, and national level. And I never set out to have the career that I've did. Well, maybe I did, because I've always wanted to be a politician. But certainly in those early days in the centre of Coventry, I never thought that I would be Secretary of State. But the purpose of education really has never altered through all those years. And I've been very lucky to be able to experience it on quite a few levels. So that's a bit about my background. How I got involved with NIPA. I know John. Do you know there's a thing here? There's lots of initiatives about trying to build schools, change communities, work with our overseas friends and neighbours, bring together. And if I'm really honest, the reason I wanted to support IBA was because of John and Jean. And I've known John for ages. His son went to my school. So we have connections from when I was a teacher. I was head of sixth form, and John became one of my students, and John's son became one of my students. So I got to know John through that. But the important thing there is I knew John and Jean, so I trusted them. I knew their values. I knew how hard they worked, and I knew that the intent was good. So sometimes it's really weird, but sometimes in deciding to support something that's big, really big, like building a school in a community I don't know, in a country I've never been to, you look at the people who are going to lead it. And if you trust them, you say, it'll be okay. It'll be okay. I'm happy to put my name behind that. And my judgment was right. So, and it's done miraculous things since then. But I knew it would be right because I knew the leadership that was going to go in it. Not that it would work out perfectly, because life's not like that. But I knew that it would have someone's best efforts. You can't guarantee success, but that's all you ever can hope for. Best efforts, good values, and honest intent and strong partnerships. And I knew from the start that that's what Iba Girls School would have behind it because of John and Jean, your colleagues, Jean, who I didn't know. That's why I pick out John and Jean. But you know, it's been a marvelous enterprise, and I know that no one can do it alone. What I've loved most about it is the good partnerships, the solidarity, the camaraderie, the joint purpose that's come out of the project between those people who live in South Sudan and in Iba, the teachers, the politicians, the parents and the girls. That's what's made it possible. I love partnerships that work, and this one has worked very well indeed.
Fantastic. Pia, I wonder if I might bring you in here, because Estelle has talked very strongly about linking education and politics. Did that resonate with you? And how does that link to Iba Girls School?
Yeah, thank you very much. Again, Maureen, thank you very much for your support. Thank you for supporting the people of South Sudan. And you have said very good things about leadership, about people you trust, and creating that opportunity for people you have not seen before. But again, they believe that that's a good platform for humanity. It is really brilliant. Politics and education move together in a way, because every society would want the best for their people.
Yes, yes.
And any leader will think of moving the society from point A to point B. And the only platform that builds that capacity is education. I believe you only knew John and Jean because of education. If they stayed in the village and they did not come, and the son of John did not come to a school, I don't think we should be having this conversation this morning. And so education creates that platform. Education is the only best tool that takes people to the tomorrow that we don't know. And so the tools work together. Actually, education unlocks that potential, creates that social web that brings people together around common ideas. Also, extension of social cohesion opportunities. How would I be talking to you today and being in Coventry if it was not for education? Look, I traveled from Africa to the UK on last 2 days ago. And when I was landing in Heathrow, this is not my first time, even for me to board a plane, to get a terminal in Nairobi, to know the flight number, when it will take off, where am I going, all because of education. Landing in Heathrow, knowing the terminal 4, where to exit. I mean, it's a fundamental human right. It is everything. So that's what touches my heart sometimes, to support education, because without it, how could I read my ticket? I mean, my seat number in the plane, and even communicate, get a taxi. So it's everything, and that's why it is important, especially for girls.
Yes, and coming on to girls' education, I wonder if I could bring in Aida, because you've been a passionate supporter of girls' education and arguing right from the planning of the independence of South Sudan that girls' education is important. Can you say something about that? And then I will ask Estelle to add something about girls' education. But Aida first, perhaps.
Okay, thank you for this opportunity and for this meeting. Before we signed the agreement, the comprehensive peace agreement, our late founder, leader, John Garang, organized a conference in new site, especially for girls' education, because our girls, most of our girls has not been into schools because of the culture, because they were looking, our parents were looking to us as their income, where they can get money, where they can get many cows, just like that. And just to stay at home and look after our young brothers and sisters. We were not given opportunity to go to school, and they were looking at us as we can do nothing. Girls is nothing to do with the leadership and all that. But after that, then after that conference, I become one of the advocating for girls' education, whereby we formed an organization called Task Force on Girls' Education, which was supported by UNICEF under the Department for Education. So it has been very good and very, very, very good start, whereby we could move to talk to the chiefs, to the communities, to the students themselves, to hear their problems and the parents. So after that meetings, now we were encouraging our parents to let their girls go to schools and to urge the government to open more schools, because one of the factors also was the distance. So the schools were not near, so that the girls can access easily. So we encourage the government to open schools near to the communities, whereby our girls can be access the education. And also the issue of paying the teachers, which was not there. So the teachers, also they have families, so they need to be supported. And this one we included into our reports. And also trained teachers. You know, to have good education, you must have trained teachers so that they can be able to take our children with good education. So we found also the chiefs, where we brought them in, so that their role is to see every house has to send their girls to school, not to leave the girls at home just to take care after their young brothers and sisters. And they have to put laws to that one. So this is what we started with. Thank you so much.
Great, thank you, Ida. That's really helpful to hear about some of the origins of the push for girls' education. Estelle, any thoughts about girls' education, either in the UK or in the refugee families that you met, or just more broadly?
Yes, well, congratulations to Ida. I mean, you know, I think sometimes I thought my teaching was tough, but there's no comparison. It does make me realise the enormity of the task which you took on at the beginning of the journey. I just pick up that point about schools being very close to where the girls are. Sometimes it's as simple as that. You know, the school is too far away for people to get to. I love that point, the trained teachers. But you know, what it also made me think is I started teaching in the early 1970s. And if you'd have looked at in the United Kingdom then, in England and Wales then, at the exam results, girls were far behind boys at every level. At every time we measured attainment, girls were behind boys. And if you looked at who went to university, girls were behind boys. So although I'm not for a minute saying it's comparable, it seems that every country needs to go on this journey that really establishes the importance of education for girls and for women. Yes. And we all need to do that. And because we're at different stages in the history of our school system, it's not the same. But it's interesting to think that I can't think of a country that's not had that issue of having to work that bit harder, and sometimes immeasurably harder, to establish girls' education. I was listening to the radio this morning, and the first anniversary of the Taliban taking back over Afghanistan and what's happened to girls' education there. But I think back to my early days, and I think you'll understand this. I had lots of girls who were really high achieving, But I did have lots of really brilliant girls whose families came from overseas and just didn't want them to stay on at school, arranged early marriages, and didn't want that for their daughters. It's not that they didn't love them or care for them or want them to have a good life, but their version of a good life was to be a good husband and mother and to stay in the home. And that is a good life for women who've chosen it. But I think we need to remember, it's not about saying that's not the right thing to do, that's what you choose. It's always about giving girls choice. And so I think that's where we are, and we're all at different stages, but we can all learn from one another in that challenge to raise girls' education. And the statistics in our country now are very, very good on girls' achievement, to such an extent that we worry a lot about the underachievement of Black working class white boys. So maybe the lesson we learn from that is you've got to keep your eyes on the statistics and make sure that no group gets left behind. But the only other thing I wanted to say, Jean, on this, because I know we all know this, but it's just important that, you know, Pia said very powerfully about education being that platform for bringing about improvement in South Sudan as elsewhere. And if you look down again at statistics, I think there's a phrase, isn't there? You've only got a bit of money and you want to invest it somewhere, invest it in education for women and girls, because the power of them to work with their children will bring about even more important. And I'm not saying education for men and boys isn't important. It's really important that no message disempowers them. But because of women's role within families, what they can do with their own families in raising expectations and aspirations and supporting their sons and daughters to understand the importance of education means that, you know, when you look at every girls' school, we know this, don't we? It's not just what it will do for those girls, it's what they will do for their families in every single generation to come. It's like unlocking a door with educating girls. It's a powerful movement to go right down the generations.
Thank you. And I wonder if I might bring in Archbishop Samuel here, because you're talking about the importance of education as unlocking doors, not just for those students who benefit directly, but for their families, their wider community. Any thoughts or comments on that, Archbishop Samuel?
Thank you very much, and thank you for organizing this meeting and for inviting us to speak to someone who is so experienced and who have moved from the lower leather to the up, I think, the national and international leather through her work in education. So we appreciate that, and we appreciate the experience and the impact that has been done. I think from the very early age, when I was training to become a pastor and in a war country, you know, and where we come from in Western Equatoria, bordering Congo, bordering Central African Republic and Chad, these countries, even we consider ourselves to be unlucky. Unlucky in the sense that those people who are bordering developing countries like Uganda, like Kenya, like Ethiopia, their children can go over the border and study and get education. But for us, it was very difficult. How can our children go to Congo and have education? There's no even a proper education system there. So the question we were asking even before, you know, what inspired me to get into, get involved in education was, why are we praying for peace? That was our question. Because when peace agreement is signed, and it will come with its own baggage, it will be asking, oh, where is your document? Did you go to school to get employment? So if our people in the whole of the state didn't get education, then they will have no chance to enjoy the peace. So I think here, education unlocks doors, as we have said. Education is the key to development. Education can bring peace. because this is where education will bring, where the peace may be there, like the CPA coming, but if people are not, they are not educated, and you need educated South Sudanese to work to get the jobs, then they will not get the jobs. Then people from somewhere else will get the jobs. I think this is why, to me, I think education is very important. The way I think now that we want, to bring this up is we need to scale up what is there. What is there? How can we make it sustainable? How can we make it work? How can we use it to change, our society? Because I can think that lack of education, or even very little education, when people are ignorant, it can create conflicts. It can create misunderstandings in very few things. If people were educated, they will be able to, get things done in a more coordinated way, and everyone will find their space, and there will be, no misunderstanding. At least if it is there, it may be to a certain degree. I think that is why I think education is important, and our role as various groups, people in the UK coming with their experience, people in South Sudan, a coordinated effort will bring good result. And I commend, Igbo girls and the trustees here, and those founders like our mother, I can say, who have been, teaching over years and have gone, this is, coordinated efforts like this will help produce good results. And then we can have, what we need for our education, or education of our girls in our country. And we appreciate all those who are working with us to see this as a reality.
And Pia, could I bring you in? You're the most senior civil servant in the Ministry of Peacebuilding. You set up the Ministry of Peacebuilding. How do you see the link between education and peacebuilding?
Yeah, peace is a basket of good things, basket of apples, bananas, oranges. Because peace is not a single standalone object. And so the only way you can access that basket that makes human being to be happy, that answers those questions of sustainability, of ownership of our world, is to have that ticket of education. Especially in our context, when you talk about the 3 pillars of education, the learning to know, the knowledge that you need to have to survive the 21st century, the technical ability, that takes it to innovation. The learning to do, which is the practical skills, sustainable livelihood skills, carpentry, to young people in our context. The learning to live together, the social skills. So all these put together will give peace to the people. The creation of opportunities, even if you are a politician, you look at politics as not an end. It should be, it's not the last thing you can do. Today you can be a prime minister, but tomorrow you can start a foundation that you can use to help the world. So it will not be, you will not be running politics neck to neck, because there are other opportunities there. This is not the end of everything if you are not a minister or somebody in government. So basically, education creates that railway to take you to the destination of self-actualization, of participation in our world, of reaping the fruits of your labor from the country. So education leads to peace and social cohesion. Education unlocks the potential of human beings to be innovative, to be able to earn a living. Education also, especially in our context, creates the platform for our women to demonstrate that they can do exactly what men can do. And if not for education, I mean, we will not see women flying aircrafts, and then the tradition of thinking that women cannot do some of the things would not be justified. Now, scientifically, education provides that platform for women and girls to prove themselves against the traditional beliefs. So those small things, those platforms created by education for every members of society, including people living with disability, to participate leads to peace building, leads to participation of every human being in our world. So education really is a pathway to peace and peaceful society.
Great. I wonder if I might ask Estelle some reflections on what we've talked about this morning, and also any message you'd like to give to the staff and to the 300 girls at Iba Girls Boarding School.
Well, first of all, it's been absolutely fascinating to listen to what our friends have been saying today. The one point I want to take up is that Archbishop Samuel said it, and Pia mentioned it, you can educate for peace. I know we've said this, but that's the other important thing. It's not just about, it is about facts and skills and the economy, but it's also about values and attitudes. And I wouldn't for 1 minute ever say that conflict's born out of ignorance, but it's very, very often born out of intolerance and lack of understanding and empathy. So I very much I've enjoyed listening to those reflections on not only the importance of education for individuals and the economy, but just as values that underpin the sort of society that South Sudan is trying. The last thing I wanted to say is, in 2011, I knew it was in safe hands, but I never dreamt that within years, I would see a building taking shape. And over those years, the last 11 years, I've received so many photographs and newsletters about, the building blocks being there, then this building being there, then the girls being in it, then stories of difficulty, then there's been conflict, and there's been the pandemic. There's been all those things. You couldn't have chosen a more difficult decade in which to try to build a school. You really couldn't. And the fact that throughout all that it's happened is a real tribute to everyone. And what I have in my mind now, when I think back, it's the pictures of the girls at school. It's absolutely wonderful that they probably weren't born, but they couldn't have had that a decade ago. So it is a success story. And I think that's so important. Sometimes the problems of the world and the challenges seem so great that we talk about our problems and our failures, and that's important. But sometimes we don't take enough time to talk about our success. And success on a global stage is always small building blocks. There's no magic wand. It's lots of Iba School for girls. That's what it is. All over South Sudan, all over the deprived parts of the United Kingdom, all over the world. It's lots of successful hospitals and successful industries. It's small building blocks that build it. So I just did, Jean, really want to both congratulate you and everybody for what's achieved. And I am uncertain about a lot of things, but one thing I am absolutely certain about is what Iba Girls School will do is it will change the lives of the girls. I suspect it will go on to play an important part in the future of South Sudan. And that is great. It's a success story. It will have its challenges and things will go wrong, but it is well rooted in good values and has experience of success. And just two things, I wish it well, but more than ever, look, don't forget, education is meant to be enjoyed. It's meant to be fun. It's meant to make you laugh and make you smile and make you dream. It's not all hard work. So just don't forget to enjoy yourselves as well. And good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed. what a wonderful point to stop on. We do have a lot of fun between us as well, I have to say, working on this project, as well as working through various problems and difficulties. But thank you so much for that reminder. And also thank you, Estelle, for all your support over the last, well, more than a decade now. It's so valuable and really just great. We often have our nose to the grindstone and we don't look up and see how much of a success the school already is. And, you know, to have 300 girls in school, that's making a difference for every life and every family and every community. So thank you, everybody. What we've done this morning, I think, has been really interesting and some very good themes coming through. Is there anything people finally want to add or say?
Yeah, just to say thank you to Estelle for the support, encouraging word, the experience you have shared this morning. And just to really request that please continue to support us. The government of the Republic of South Sudan has taken women's participation critical. We have a vice president who is a woman. We have the speaker of the assembly who is a woman. The minister of defense. There are only very few in the world.
Absolutely.
She's a woman. We have a minister of agriculture as a woman. The minister of education as a woman. We have a minister of culture is a woman. So the government, the new government in the last 11 years of the Republic of South Sudan, despite the challenges, has championed women leadership. And so the only way to sustain that is to have that schools like Iba Girls trying to respond and keep a group of educated women coming up. So we are in a good trajectory, even in the region, in East African region. In the 11 years that we have been trying to fly this aircraft, we are still in those clouds, but I think we are getting the momentum, but that momentum needs to be supported. And we thank you very much for being one of us supporting this.
Thank you.
I think what I wanted to say in the last seconds remaining is just a thank you again. Thank you to everybody. And to know that you cannot do things only where things are softer, where there will always opposition, there will be always challenges, but to keep the momentum, to keep going is good. So despite the challenges, but there is more success in seeing Iba Girl as it is today. And it is a gift. I will continue to say that. Thank you very much.
Thank you.